You know, lately I've been noticing that a lot of people have been talking about Transformers the movie, the 1986 film, which I just happen to have right here. Now, be honest, these are the Blu-rays, of course. This is the Blu-ray I got before I got this one. This is the Madman Entertainment one, which is playable in my Blu-ray player. And then, of course, later on, I got this, the Steelbook edition via Amazon, the 30th anniversary edition of the movie. So, yeah, pretty cool to have them. And yes, I do have the DVDs, but I have them buried, they're kind of put away right now. But this is the DVD. One, if you see it here on the screen, this is the DVD I do have, the Rhino edition. Which of course I have now in addition to that I also have the VHS edition. I have the VHS edition of the DVD, as well as I think somewhere, I don't know where it's at, I had another VHS edition. The difference was the DVD version and the VHS version that you see probably on one of my sides here, on one of the sides of the screen, had the special edition yellow band on top of it, while the other one didn't. I don't know why it was called special edition, but the only special edition about it was the fact that I think one of the VHSs had the scroll version, the UK scroll version of the movie. Now, with that said, the only thing I don't have of Transformers the movie, of course, is the Family Home Entertainment version, which came out in 1987, about a year or so later, which was kind of surprising, which is kind of surprising when I looked up the information, but it does kind of show you how different times were when it came to movies being released on the home video. I mean, nowadays it's like 4 to 6 months, if not less than that. I think the lesser time is like 2 to 3 months, but the average is about 4 to maybe 6. Back then, it was almost a year before you got a home video release. But the Family Home Entertainment one was the only way I ever got to watch the movie for the first time. And according to my sisters, I've seen this movie so many times, I know it by heart. I know it, according to them, I've seen it over 1 million, if not 1 billion times. So, that's kind of saying something, you know what I'm saying? But I've always loved the movie, and I can recall back in 1986, the local channel that we had at the time, and we still have today, but not here in the Central Valley, but in the Bay Area, KTVU Channel 2, known as Fox 2 now, KTVU Fox, would air about a block of Hasbro cartoons in syndication. And one of them, of course, was Transformers along with G.I. Joe. They did have some other programming. I think they had maybe Inhumanoids. They had some other programming as well. I think they had G.I. Joe, they had Transformers, and I think perhaps, I could be wrong about this, I think they also had maybe some of the Rankin Bass stuff, but I kind of recall the Rankin Bass stuff being on KBHK 44 or KBCW now, right before, She-Ra and He-Man. But I think it got mixed around a little bit. I think basically the thing with me was I would watch some shows on KBCW or KBHK at the time, and then when it came time for Transformers and G.I. Joe, I'd switch over to KTVU. They also had Gem on as well around this time frame, so it went from being a 1 hour block to an hour and a half block, and then of course the fall of '86 saw the debut of My Little Pony series, and that became a 2 hour block. But it was around this time, during this hour block, along with some other shows, that basically I saw the advertisements for Transformers the movie on television. And of course it was doing Transformers and doing some other parts of the animation block they had. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I mean, I saw an advertisement for the upcoming season, and some of the new Transformers, but then all of a sudden right next to it was Transformers the movie. And then sometimes, I think the first time I saw it was right on its own. It's like, it's like right after the first commercial for one of the episodes came on, as soon as it went to commercial, that's the first thing I saw was Transformers the movie. And I think they did that a couple of times, and then they would show it before they went back, before they came back from commercial. It was just amazing. It was just an amazing time. And I wanted to see it in the theaters so badly. I wanted to see it in the theaters. And you got to imagine, I'm 6 years old when I'm starting to see these advertisements, and the movie's coming out about a month after I turned 7. So for someone that's 6 going on 7, seeing this is like a dream come true. And like I said, I wanted to see it in theaters. But unfortunately, like a lot of folks I found out, a lot of kids of my generation at that time, I could not see it in theaters. Of course, being 6 to 7, you know, I was kind of still a very hyperactive child, you know. It's like, I think what my parents feared was that I would get so into the movie that I wouldn't sit down, that I'd be going crazy in the theaters or something. But the catch was, we also would but the catch was, there was one place we would go to the theaters, or go to the movies to, I should say, to go see a movie, and that was the Union City Drive-In. That's what it was called, the Union City Drive-In. And we would go there, and when you would pass on the highway, it had this big billboard-like thing, and this was before they had the electronics billboards that would show you what was on. They would just flash the names of what was on there, of what was playing, and instead it would have, and they still do it to this day, but they would have the letters on there that would say what movies and all that they had. And I think at one point when we drove by there, I saw it say Transformers the movie. And I'm thinking, you know, we go to this place a lot just to see a movie at times, why can't we go see Transformers? Unfortunately, like I said, I didn't get to see it at that time. So like a lot of folks, a lot of kids of my generation, young and old, or young and a little bit older, or about my age, we had to wait until the movie came out on VHS. I had to wait basically until I was about 8 years old to see the movie, according to what the TFWiki.com says. TFWiki.com. It basically states that it was about, almost like I say, about a year later, I had to wait for it to come on a VHS. And that too shows you how old I am. I mean, how old I am and how old this movie is. And how much, you know, and how old a lot of the grown-ups like me that enjoy the movie, how different the times were, I should say, because nowadays it takes about 4 to 6 months, 2 to 3 at the least, before a movie goes from theaters to home video. Nowadays, I mean, back then though, it was about a year, maybe 6 months at most, before it would come to home video. Mostly a year. And again, it shows you how much times have changed. If you had to wait about a year or so, or 6 months or so, before a movie would come to home video. Anyway though, I did get to finally see it thanks to the Family Home Entertainment cassette that it came out on originally. And I remember how I found out the movie was coming, because we used to live in Hayward, California. And one of the places we would go rent a movie from was called Neighborhood Video. And basically, in front of Neighborhood Video, they would have posters of what was coming. And one of the posters, I think, was Transformers the movie. And then on the inside, they had this like little whiteboard that was done up in different color Sharpies. Basically a lot of the movie titles that had just arrived or coming soon were colored in with different color Sharpies, or markers I should say, and on the coming soon side it said Transformers and it showed the date. So, long story short, my parents knew I wanted to see this, but they knew there was a bunch of other kids that wanted to see it, and they said, how are we going to make sure this happens? And I think someone in the neighborhood said, you got to call up and reserve the movie. And that's exactly what they did. They called up, reserved it, they got a call back saying it's in, come and get it. And that's what we did. And we all watched it as a family that night. And honestly, I think like a lot of kids, of course, there was that moment 25 minutes in with, you know, the death of Optimus. I can remember and recall very clearly what I did, because we had a gray pillow. We had a big gray pillow that I would usually lay on the floor and just put my head on, sometimes watch television with my family and probably fall asleep. I remember watching the movie, and all of a sudden that scene came on, and just, I put my head, I didn't cry, which was surprising, but I just like put my head in my pillow, underneath my pillow, because I'm thinking, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see what's happening, or something. But I did see it. I did see it as it happened, but I kind of like had the pillow, kind of had like my face in the pillow a little bit, because I didn't want to be like, I didn't really want this to be happening, but it did. So ever since then, though, anytime, but long story short, we did see the movie, and I think my mom was a little surprised by the violence that was in it, you know, and somewhat of the, like the violence and all that. It was like, I think my mom shared the sentiments, of, along with any other parent out there at the time. It's like, wait a minute, this is based on the cartoon, this afternoon cartoon series that our kid sees? What the heck, what's going on? And it wouldn't be until many years later, decades later, till we find out why the characters were dying, why they were being killed off. But I think obviously when you would watch the commercials for the new toys, it should have given us the idea then. But again, we didn't know. It wouldn't be until, like I said, almost years, decades later. But yeah, like I said, I remember watching it, and it wouldn't be the first time. Anytime we went to the video store, I had to rent it. Anytime we went to the video store, that was one of my primary things I wanted to rent, was Transformers the movie, Transformers the movie, Transformers the movie, Transformers the movie. No matter where we lived, if there was a video store we had a membership at, or we could get a membership at, I had to watch Transformers the movie. Had to watch it. 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 Had to rent it. Had to rent it. Rent it. That was me. That was my forte. I had to see it. In fact, I remember one embarrassing moment so long ago. And if my former neighbors are watching this, I do apologize for that embarrassing moment long ago. But just like any kid, hyperactive, you know, kind of a little, you know, still has some, you know, needs at the time, some kind of, at the time, kind of slow on the uptake, if you will. I mean, I'm up to speed. Obviously, you can tell I'm up to speed now. Everybody can tell that. But anyway, what I'm saying is that back then, a lot of us kids, not saying every kid, but there's some of us kids that were kind of like, especially as boys at times, they were kind of slow on the maturity level. That I remember I went with my neighbors to a place called K Video. That's right, K-Video. And it was Transformers the movie. And I wanted to rent it. I wanted to get it. And this is embarrassing. But I'm, you know, as a kid, I think I was like 8, 9 at the time. We were living in Fremont, California. I threw a tantrum in the store, to the point that my neighbors rented the movie for me, but on the condition that I give it back to them when they had to return it, and basically to shut me up. That was so embarrassing. I'll never forget that. Never forget that. It's like, what, I mean, I look back on it now and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? What was I honestly thinking? Because you know what was funny? You know what's funny, folks, is it wouldn't be that long after when what was known as Season 5 would take the movie and split it up into parts, or days as they call it, and show it in syndication. And then on Saturdays, they would show it in its full-length family home entertainment format. And it was during one of those full-length broadcast on Saturday morning that I got to finally record the movie. My mom had promised me that if I did good in school that week, I could record the movie on VHS, and that's what I did. And I kept that VHS for so long that it's, believe it or not, 709 Hamilton Street in Oskaloosa, Kansas, or 711 Hamilton Street, whatever it is, next to 405 Elm, that big house there, it contains a box that has that VHS in there. But there's no way I can get to it now because that house is boarded up. And if there is anything remaining, those VHSs are probably long worn out. Probably ate into shreds by rats or mice, who knows. But I remember recording it. And I was happy because I now had the movie. But of course there would be years and years later, about, I would say 7, 8 years later, almost a decade later I should say, about 9 years later, 8, 9 years later, I would be in Kansas and my grandma, my late Grandma Lois, got me the soundtrack because we noticed it at a Barnes & Noble. And then later on, she helped me get the movie on VHS when it came on the VHS. This was at a time when Kid Rhino was starting to distribute the movies, if not the series. And I also started to get some of the series on VHS at that time thanks to Kid Rhino. And then later on, when I started living on my own, that's when it was announced that Kid Rhino, Rhino Entertainment, or Rhinomation, as they call themselves, released the DVD version of the movie. Basically, it was the VHS version of the movie, but it was DVD and it was uncut, finally. And it had the interview with Vince DiCola. And then several years later, of course, lived on my own. Well, a couple of years later, started to live on my own, and that's when I got a hold of the 20th anniversary, believe it or not, this is true, and I started working, and this is when I started working at the Walmart the Walmart in Lawrence, Kansas. I got, at midnight release, got the 20th anniversary 2-disc edition of Transformers the movie, released by Sony Home Video. And then, on top of that, several years later, of course, I got the Blu-ray that I showed you, and then, of course, Shout Factory released the 30th anniversary on Blu-ray finally, and the rest is history. I also ended up getting the 2 vinyl records, special vinyl records, the ones, I don't know if you can find them here online, I'll have to see if I can find pictures of them. And if I do, you'll see them here. The 2 vinyl records, one that had the Autobot symbol and one that had the Decepticon symbol on there as well. So yeah, I also ended up getting the big Transformer poster that sometimes you see in my room. So yeah, I have a general love for Transformers the movie, and it's been with me ever since. Like I said, the only regret I have is not seeing it in the theaters, and the closest I ever had since then was last year, late last year, when Fathom Events decided to redistribute, in association with Hasbro, redistribute the movie for one night only into theaters. Had my chance, didn't do it. But, what are you going to do? I also have the movie now on digital, as well as on an SD card as well, just in case, just for safekeeping. But yeah, I can't say any more than that, guys. I mean, Transformers the movie 1986 just has a special place in my heart, and I can't say any more than that. Well, you know, I got the comic book adaptations, both the Marvel and the IDW, so well, what are you going to do so what can you say about that? But really, that's all I can say on Transformers the movie, guys, the 1986 film. I mean, I know there's a lot of people that share the same sentiments I do, so let me know what you all think down below. Comment if you like. What are your fond memories of Transformers the movie? When did you first see it? And have you gone to the links I have sometimes to have a copy of it? Let me know down below. Comment if you like, and I'll talk to y'all later.